They didn't, black people I had no problem with. If I had a problem with anybody, it was white people who didn't like me socializing or recording black music in Alabama with this all going on.
When I love woman, down deep in his soul, she can bring him such misery.
Percy Sledge's When a Man Loves a Woman brought the sound of Muscle Shoals to the attention of Jerry Wexler, who once again was looking for a southern studio for his singers after falling out with Stax.
I get off the plane, Southern Airlines, and here this long, tall, white man, we call him Peckerwoods, you know, back in. He walks up like he'd known me for 500 years. Hey, Wilson, come on, we're gonna cut some funky records. Boy, we're gonna really cut some records. Come on, Wilson, come on. I said, wait, I'm nervous, you know what I mean? Now, what does white man know about producing a Wilson Pickett? Boy, I'm telling you, I'm gonna show you the studio. I'm gonna show you. Boy, we went through the cotton patch, people still picking cotton. Out there, I said, is that what I see what I think it is? Yeah, Wilson, they're still picking cotton down there. We still picking cotton. This studio was right over, you could see a studio from the cotton patch. You know I feel all right? And I have to tell you this, we cut Mustang Sally all at funky Broadway, the land of 1,000 whole dances. Nah, 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 nah. Come on, y'all, let's say it one more time. Nah, 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 long tall Sally.
These players in Muscle Shoals were all Caucasians. This seems to confound perceived wisdom and all the logic of the music professors and the commentators. How could authentic soul music and blues come out of a situation like this?
We get accused of being country fans. Now, I don't know, Spooner might have been into it a little bit, but I think David and I basically came from listening to Jimmy Reed and Bo Diddley and Chuck Berry.
That sort of thing, that was one form, and of course the Ray Charles on the other side, the rhythm and blues side, that was wonderful for me to hear. And then there was a Grand Ole Opry, you know. All those things were coming at me at once, so I took it all in.
In January 1967, the homespun studio band in Muscle Shoals aided in the birth of a superstar when Jerry Wexler brought down a Detroit artist he'd just signed to Atlantic.
I didn't know who Aretha was. The only thing I knew was that her father was the Reverend Franklin, who I listened to at WLAC in Nashville, coming home from gigs a lot of nights.
You are too weak. Yes. If you anticipate failure, believe me, you're gonna fail.
I knew it was his daughter, and she'd been a secret almost in the music business. She'd never had, I don't think, even a mediocre hit at the time with CBS. They didn't know what to do with her.
When you went and left me there crying, your goodbye was even colder than ice. It didn't bother you, I was crying, and now you want to break my heart twice.
I was having what was called turntable hits. Turntable hits are records that get a lot of play, but they did not garner a lot of sales. We wanted hits. Everyone else was having hits, and I didn't have a hit record. And Jerry Wexler had extended the offer of a contract, and we went over to meet with him, and that is when I signed with Atlantic Records in 1967.
When they heard the news that Wexler had signed her, Aretha's arrival at Muscle Shoals was eagerly awaited by the production team.
I recall we started recording, I think, 10, 11 o'clock, which we usually did. And the musicians, the studio was full of musicians. We had them three deep in the, out in the lobby, meaning that if the bass player, we had three bass players, if one couldn't cop the lick, we'd bring in another one and fire him. That's how that's how important the sessions were. When Aretha came in and sat down at the piano, Spooner Oldham was playing electric piano, Wurlitzer. And I've always thought, and I think Aretha would agree to this, that his little part that he was playing was so important to the record that everybody just kind of fell into his groove.
When we played that song, in my mind I thought, well, it doesn't have a specific meter, really. So the band just sort of looked at each other after it's finished, like, well, what do we do? I mean, where do we go now? So we were just all basically off in our little worlds trying to figure a rhythm or riff. And I just happened to be the one that, I guess, formulated this little pattern, and it started.
You're no good, heartbreaker. You're a liar and you're a cheat. And I don't know why I let you do these things to me.
Everybody was a little uptight, including myself. I was a nervous wreck because Wexler was standing over my shoulder always when I'm engineering. I believe Tom was here, Tom Dowd, sitting over there someplace, and between the two of them and the directions I were getting, I was, you know, no, turn him up, turn him down. Wait a minute, you're losing the singer. Wait a minute, bring up the horn. The guitar's wiping everything out, you know, and then we didn't have sliders in those days. We had turn pots, you know, you turned them up and down. So it was an exciting, very exciting time.
There was a ruckus. One of the horn players and Aretha's then husband, Ted White, got into it. Well, the session blew up, and instead of staying there for a week to complete the whole album, everybody went back where they came from. Ted and Aretha went to Detroit, I went to New York. I had this wonderful record. It was finished, and I Never Loved a Man. And I had a three-piece track on the B-side called Do Right Woman. We cut the acetates on I Never Loved a Man and sent it out to disc jockeys, and it was a tidal wave response. And our distributors and the stores said, let's have the record. No record. We had no B-side. And it took me quite a while, a couple of weeks, to find Aretha. Well, we found her. She came to New York with her sisters. She and her sisters finished this record with no other help.
Show some respect for me if you wanna do right.
When it was finally released in the spring of 1967, I Never Loved a Man, backed by Do Right Woman, went straight to the top of the charts.
I take great pleasure in presenting to you the Cashbox Achievement Award for 1967. You finished first in singles, first on albums, and first in rhythm and blues.
Back in our hometown, Aretha celebrated with Martin Luther King himself.
And whereas Detroit is proud of its native daughter, and whereas she's everybody's soul sister, therefore I, Jerome P. Cavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Detroit, do hereby proclaim Friday, February the 16th as Aretha Franklin Day.
The decade that had begun with Berry Gordy carefully polishing songs for white middle-class taste had reached a point when music with deep African-American roots was being embraced the world over.
It looked as though soul was now the imprint, was now the rubric forever. But I had a hunch, and I even told my partner, I think it was maybe 68 or 69, I said, I have a feeling this is going to grind to a shuddering halt. I felt new things happening. One thing is what you call the rising aspirations of the inner city, that they were looking toward other things than this kind of so-called religious church-based music. There was a new spirit. It was more secular. But of course, the thing that really seemed to cap it was the assassination of Dr. King.
When we got the news, we were in the recording studio here recording. I don't recall